I don't know if it's the best angle for this, but it's because I want to show from like I want to show from overhead. That way you can see what I'm doing. But I want to sharpen a knife, and I want to show you how I do it. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but I'm going to show you how I do it. In the end, like the the end result is, I guess you could say, what matters. It's less about the the technique will help you get to that end result, and everybody has a technique. But anyways, so I make my stones soak in water because these are wet stones, and this stone, as you can see, it's a little bit damaged, but I use my my truing stone to kind of sand it down so that it's smooth again. So it might not look smooth, it might look like it has imperfections, but I can assure you when I touch it and everything, it's smooth, so it'll sharpen properly. This video is gonna be really janky because I have no better way to show you the angle I want to show you. So far so good. Yeah, look at that, it's not so bad. So this is a pretty cheap stone I bought. It's got two sides. It's got a 1,000, 6,000, I think. So this side is 1,000, this side is 6,000. It's the grit. So the grit is how rough a stone is. And I got my knife. This is my knife that I use in my cooking videos usually. It's not my work knives, so I'll show you. One way that you can sharpen if you want is to go like this and then go like this and basically do the sections of your knife. The thing with this though is that we won't sharpen the same way at the same rate. So by doing this and then doing this and then doing this and then doing this, you're basically doing 4 different steps of sharpening. And so you're gonna have 4 different like feels on your knife, and it won't be ideal. So usually what people will do is they'll do try to do like a movement like this, where you cover the entire length of your blade on your stone, and then they'll go back and forth like this, and then they'll turn it and they'll go back and forth like this and basically do the entire length of their knife. That's usually the ideal way. You could also go like this and put the entire length of your knife on it, and then move up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. Do the same thing, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. For longer knives that are longer than the stone, it's kind of hard to do that. So you'll have to rely on doing this or whatever. But and also you have to keep in mind that your knife is not the same everywhere. So in this case, the knife kind of slightly curves at the top. So I would have to go like this and then slightly curve, like this and then slightly curve, like this and then slightly curve. And you'll be able to see the edge of your knife when you sharpen it. I don't know how evident it is on the video, but like here where it shines, like you can see that it shines as one continuous line. And basically you want to make this equal and even and shiny, and you want to see like when you touch your knife, like not smooth, but when you touch your knife like this, the edge, as you sharpen it, you'll feel like a little bit of resistance from one side, a little bit of resistance from the other side. And your point is to make it so you have no resistance, because basically when you're sharpening a knife, you have your edge, and you'll kind of like make it turn to one direction, then you flip your knife and you sharpen, and it'll turn into the other direction, and basically you want to create an even point between those two. So you create a little burr, you'll create a little burr, it'll create a little nub, and that's gonna be aligned, and that's what you're gonna sharpen. And then you'll sand it down by going to higher and higher grit to be able to basically make this into either nothing, so you go back to the metal being straight and sharp, or by turning this into something so sharp that you can cut with it. I'm not too sure on the exact details, but that's more or less it. And you want to start at low grits and go to higher and higher grit, and the higher and higher grit you go, the more polishing you're going to be doing, and the finer your edge is going to be. So I'll show you. This is how I do it. This is how I like doing it. This has like a rubberized bottom, so it should stay in place, but it's not the best. You want to apply even pressure throughout the entire knife, which is why I'm holding it this way. So this, the entire section of my entire knife gets even pressure, and I cover all the length of the knife. As you can see. And I don't go back and forth. I find it easier to just go in one direction. I find that if I go like this, sometimes I kind of mess up the movement, and I don't get the end result that I want. So that's why I'm going only in one direction. And the other thing too is you want to keep your stone wet so that it does so that all the little microparticles, the grit, basically helps you sharpen your knife. So every once in a while I'll dip it back in the water. You can also have a little bowl of water and kind of sprinkle water on it. The angle is also kind of arbitrary in the sense that everybody sharpens at a different angle, and the angle is based on your needs. So some people will like steeper angles for their knife. Some people will like more like thin angles, and you can tell what the angle is based on how big the edge is, like how big your little shiny spot is. This is a stainless steel knife, so it's a bit harder, in my opinion, to sharpen. I find that carbon steel knives are easier to sharpen, and they'll be easier to realign the edge with, and they'll be easier to maintain. But they're a lot of work because they rust and they oxidize, and there's a lot going on. Whereas this, like, you know, it's stainless steel, so it's a bit harder of a steel. So you got to be more. It might take longer, and you might need to apply a little bit more pressure. So already, I don't know if you can see, once again, you know, it's one of those things where with the camera it's really hard to tell, but my edge is not as shiny as it was before because I've been sharpening it. So here you'll see that it's maybe a bit more shiny, and whereas here it's not as shiny anymore. But it's a one continuous shape, so it's fine. And then I'm gonna start doing the other direction. And I always find that the other direction is a bit harder. You know, I'm right-handed, so sharpening this way, I find that it feels different, and I have a hard time being as consistent. But basically, you want to have the same angle as when you sharpened in the original direction. Well, in the first direction, you want to have the same angle, and you want to have the same movement. And it's kind of hard, in my opinion, to recreate. So right now I'm touching my knife, and see how when I touch it this way, it's smooth all the way through. But when I touch it this way, up here, it's rough because the piece of metal curves away and goes and touches my finger, which means now, and you can even see it a little bit, which means now I have to sharpen in this direction to get this little rough spot to disappear. I always dry it properly so I can feel the knife, because you want to have my fingers to be dry and I want my knife to be dry so I can feel everything. So right now, once again, I'm feeling just a little bit, the slightest bit of roughness over here. Yeah, now I feel slightly rough over here, so I have to sharpen it in the other direction. There, it's starting to get the pretty smooth feeling. The problem with doing it always in one direction is that you move the water. You move the water into only one part of your stone, so you have to reapply water more often. So yeah, the way to tell if you're doing your movement properly, well, whatever movement you choose to do, the way to tell if you're doing it properly is that you can see the edge that you're creating being like polished and whatever, and you want it to be like constant into like a straight line, and you want it to go from the bottom all the way to the top to the tip of your knife, and you want it to feel even the entire way through. So one way I saw this being done by someone online, I don't remember where or who, but what they would do is they would basically use a Sharpie to put a piece of a little like color at the edge of their knife, and then as they were sharpening, they could keep track of the Sharpie disappearing as they sharpened, and so they knew that like if the Sharpie was more disappeared more here, they knew that like the way they moved when they sharpened, that it would do like for some reason they would spend more time on the middle of the knife, so they would have to adjust, and it's a good way to learn. I feel like you can also learn just by doing by feel like this, and just kind of learning to sharpen. Like I never learned formally how to sharpen. I'm kind of self-taught. I just know the theory behind how you're supposed to sharpen knives, and how they feel and how I like to use them. And do a little to show you another way. You can do it like this. I just find it awkward. That's one way to do it, but I don't like doing it this way because then I'm only using a part of the stone instead of using the entire stone. And as a result, obviously now it looks straight, but like sometimes stones will go like this. They'll turn into like a half pipe when you do a skate, and it means that because obviously this center gets used a little bit more, no matter what, unless you're like super perfect. So that's why you have a truing stone to basically remake it flat. That way you can sharpen properly. So that's why I like to do like use the entire length of the knife, doing the entire length of the knife on the entire length of the whetstone. That way I'm less likely to create like pockets that will make the everything less sharp, let's say. I'm gonna spin it, I'm gonna wet it. There's a hair on it. I'm gonna start doing sharpening with a smoother stone, and you can hear just from the sound. It's a lot smoother, like the sound's not as harsh. You can also see the edge is getting shinier. I'm trying to show, but it's so hard to see because it's like the way the light gets reflected and everything. But you can see it's getting shinier. And you want that part that you sharpen first with your lower grit. You want that part to get shinier because that's the part that you're working on. You're basically polishing polishing the edge that you created, shaving off that burr to make it smooth. If you do it too steep of an angle, you're gonna eat at your like if you go like, you're gonna eat into your stone. You really want to glide on the stone, not destroy your stone. You want the stone to destroy your knife, not the other way around. So I'm starting to be able to shave my arm, which means that's how I test it. That's why this part of my arm is more has. Before my camera rudely interrupted my rant, basically this part of my my arm is more bare, and that's because I always test my knife on here. So as you can see, I can shave myself, which means it's getting sharp. But basically that's why we're gonna keep doing it, to get it really, really sharp, getting really polished, really nicely mirrored sheen. So you can get a knife really sharp with only one whetstone. You can get a knife really sharp with just a 1000 grit stone or just a 4000 grit stone. But it's nice to have multiple grits and kind of go up. But like this stone that I have in the water off screen, that's a 12,000 grit stone, and that's a bit overkill, you could say. It's overkill. It's really for like polishing, but it does help, obviously, but it's also expensive. Like higher grit is more expensive. So usually I would recommend like get a stone like a stone to really that's kind of abrasive, to really fix your mistakes. Like if you ever get like a chip knife, slightly chipped, or like you've kind of neglected your sharpening and it's gotten pretty dull. Like you get like a 800 or like 1000 stone, something like that, and then you get a more like refinement stones, like 4000, 6000, or 8000, something like that. And then you polish your edge on it, and then if you're really crazy, then you get like those hyper polishing stones, like 12,000, 20,000, stuff like that. But like I said, those are kind of pointless. So now I can tell here the edge is getting nicely sharpened, but here the edge is a little bit dull compared to the rest of the shine, which means it's not being polished as nicely. So I'm gonna try to only get the edge. So right now I'm putting the tip of the knife and I'm only kind of polishing the tip. A lot of people struggle with getting the tip to be sharp. Some people will even end up having a tip where the tip gets kind of pointed and curved, and people at my job we call it I don't know if it's an actual term or not, but we call it the crow's beak. So you don't want the crow's beak, so you want to make sure as you sharpen like that your tip of the knife gets sharp as well. One way to do it is like you do your movement properly, and like I said, you kind of curve at the end. And another way is just to specifically sharpen the tip, and even if the tip won't necessarily have the same angle as the rest, like at least your tip's going to be sharp. So right now, like, it's pretty sharp, but it could be more sharp, so I'm gonna keep going. And you want to keep it wet, because oh my bad, you want to keep it wet because if it starts to get dry, the stone is more, it gets damaged and doesn't sharpen as well. Because you want, like I said, you want it to glide when you sharpen, but also you don't want to destroy the stone. And also a bunch of microparticles from your knife and from the stone will mix with the water, and it'll actually help with the abrasive quality in a good way, not in a bad way. When I was beginning my sharpening journey, I only had this two-sided stone, so I used to really spend a lot of time on this step of just kind of polishing my edge. It can take a while if you're not used to it. It can take a while if you want to do a really good job, or if you don't know your movements properly. But it's not the craziest thing. Like, listen to music or a podcast or something, bang it out, sharpen your knives. In this case, I'm only going to sharpen one knife because there's no reason to sharpen all my work knives, because I sharpened them recently. And I'm sorry if the video is a bit dark, but it's like the way the light is set up in my kitchen. I will cast a shadow over the counter, but it should be okay. You can see the movement of my hands. That's what matters. Well, mostly the movement of the knife. That's what matters. Yeah. We're getting there. The tip's not as sharp as the rest, but the tip is definitely sharp. I find that this knife is pretty hard to sharpen because it's stainless steel. I tend to prefer sharpening carbon steel knives. Yeah, so it's very sharp. So put everything back in the water. So this is another way to hold your hold your sharpener. It's adjustable, so you can change it depending on the length, and you want to keep it tight, and you want to make it's rubber so it won't it'll hold. Like that. And then same thing. There's a hair. What's nice about this is this one is wider and it's a bit longer, so it's easier to get your entire knife on it and do your movements. And see how like this one's even more silent. It's like I'm on glass or something instead of being on like a hard stone. It's so smooth. And this is really like to polish your knife. And yeah, I know it looks a bit gnarly. It has like nicks and stuff in it, but it's actually it's smooth. Like I use my my truing stone to fix it. Because when I first got started sharpening and I got this one, I was bad at sharpening, so I kept eating into I kept like messing up my angle or messing up the pressure and whatever, and it would eat into the stone. But now I'm good. My edge is getting super shiny, super polished. That's how you know. But like I said, this is overkill, but now I can like easily just shave my, look at that. Shaving clean. You could shave your face probably, but I would be careful about that. This is a way that I like as well. It depends. Like I'm not gonna do this with my big knives because it's harder to pull off with a big knife. But with the smaller knives where you can do the entire knife on the stone, it works really well. Yeah. So I would say my knife is sufficiently sharp for homework, and yeah, I wouldn't what's the word? I wouldn't be shy bringing this at work. I think this is very well sharpened for even professional use in a kitchen where you do really specific work. The last thing I'll do, because this is something that I want to kind of talk about, is I have here, this is a leather block, and you use a leather block to finish your sharpening. It basically aligns your edge properly, and it's really not that abrasive, and it's really just to finish your knife, to like get that really perfect mirror sheen, like dangerous, you know, laser beam sharp knife. And that's why like when you go to barbershops, if you go to like a really old school barbershop, they'll have like on their hip, they'll have like a little leather strap, and they pull it and go. It's the same principle as this. And when you do leather, you only do in one direction, because you only want to drag away from it. You never want to push into it. So, you know, since if you do like me, you only sharpen in one direction anyways, this is gonna be fine because you're used to that movement. So this is more for maintaining the edge and less for sharpening, because this doesn't sharpen. This doesn't sharpen, it aligns your edge. So let's say I got a really sharp edge because I've been like polishing it properly and stuff, but I'm bad at getting my angles right. So like I have a really polished edge, but it's not straight. Doing this is gonna straighten it out. And it's the same thing with the honing rods. I'll go get it to show you. Hello. I couldn't find my honing rod. I don't know where it is. Probably forgot it at work or something. So I'll show you an example of how to use a honing rod, even though I don't have one. So I imagine that this is the honing rod. This is the long part. You have your knife, which I'm currently putting in this. You have your knife. Basically, you want to, let's see if I can. You want to angle your knife against the thing and pull and go through the entire length of your blade. The other direction, pull into the entire length of your blade. That way you cover one side of your edge and the other side of your edge. And you know, some people you'll see go back and forth like this. I prefer to go this, 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 and basically all the way up, all the way down, all the way up, all the way down. And the angle it's the same angle that you sharpen at. You kind of intuitively figure it out eventually. And honing rods do not really sharpen unless you get a honing rod that's kind of abrasive. But honing rods will not sharpen in usually. What they do is they align your edge, just like I was showing with the leather. They align your edge. So if you have a well-sharpened knife, using it a lot, you might disalign your edge from, you know, pressure and contact with things and whatever. You might disalign your edge. So to realign it, you know, you use a honing rod, and then your knife, its edge becomes straight again, and it starts to. That's why it feels sharper, because even the most beautiful edge, if it's not straight, you know, you won't be able to cut properly because you want that pressure point to be all concentrated into one area, because that's how pressure works. So like all that pressure is going to be concentrated into a single point, and then you're going to be able to cut super well. So you know, yes, using a knife will make it dull over time because there's abrasive stuff, there's acid, there's all these microparticles and things that are gonna, you just also contact with a cutting board, contact with wood, contact with things like that, it'll damage your knife. But sometimes it's not really that it makes your knife dull, it's more so that it disaligns your edge. So then that's why you would use a honing rod, or you would use leather. That's all I really have to say. I mean, I guess, you know, it could be like, oh, look at how cleanly it cuts through through paper, or like through a tomato or things like that. But you know, I was able to shave my arm. That's usually as far as you need to go, in my opinion. If you, well, a nice clean, close shave. Not like, you know, if I do it multiple times, a little bit of hair comes off. Like really like, and your entire arm gets shaved. And if you think it's stupid to shave your arm, then you can try on something else. You know, you can cut through paper, but I find that it's wasteful. Or you can try to cut food afterwards, and you'll just know the difference. Like, because the thing about sharpening is, even if, hold on, let me show my face so you can see how serious I am. So the thing about sharpening is, even if you do it wrong, you'll end up with like a decently sharp knife. You know, it won't be as sharp as it could possibly be, because there's all that that technique behind it. But like, even if you don't do it that well, like you'll still end up with a pretty sharp knife. And that's why you should just go ahead and try to sharpen stuff yourself. Like you know, when I first started sharpening, like my knife got pretty sharp, but not like, you know, disgustingly sharp, but it got pretty sharp. And I mean, I was pretty happy with the results. Like, you know, I could maintain a nice enough edge that I could do anything I wanted with it. And over time, the more you do it, you kind of get the intuition, you know how it feels, you know what angle you like, you know what signs to look for to tell that your knife is sharp. You know, it's really like just the more you do it, the better you get at it, just like anything in life. The thing is, if you don't know where to start, that's more what this video is about. It's more about, how do you sharpen? What kind of signs should you look for? What's the intention behind sharpening, and how does it work? That's what the video is about. But like, the technique that you'll develop, the movement you'll do, the pressure you want to apply, the angle you're gonna do, the signs that you're gonna look for. Eventually, you kind of develop this intuition as you do it. But to have like a where do you get started with? That's what this video is about. Thank you.